Y'all read the title. I don't like intros. Let's get this shit started. I've made no secret that I don't really like the way the gaming industry has gone over the last 10 to 20 years. You can point at a number of reasons as to why this is. Microtransactions, the live service model, every game having a massive open world, even if the open world isn't very good. Filling that open world with 1,000 pointless side objectives just to pad the runtime. The constant streamlining and stripping out of all the major game mechanics and modes. Remember Mortal Kombat chess? That was fun. However, the one thing that all these have in common is that they were kind of inevitable. Companies will do whatever they gotta do to make money, and these are all effective ways of doing that. If you had to ask me when the real downfall of gaming started, I would say it happened somewhere around the time that everyone decided that games should actually be movies. At first, you just had a couple of games here and there that had a more cinematic flair, and it was cool in a kind of pop-up book sort of way. Like, you know, books aren't supposed to do this, but if you do it to a couple, it's kind of cool. But there's been a shift in gaming culture where every single game that releases has to be as cinematic as humanly possible. The graphics have to be supercharged. Things like facial animations and being able to see every single pore on a person's face is more important than allowing me to do some really cool shit. I got the idea to make this video the other day while playing Earth Defense Force. If you never played it, give it a shot. It's fucking nuts. Basically, you play a soldier who lives on a world that's constantly under siege by aliens, monsters, and such. And despite being a modern game made for the PS4 and PS5, it looks like absolute shit. No joke, this shit looks like it was made for the PS3. However, because of these toned down graphics, I can blow up this building right here, or kill this 50-foot giant monster right here with a sniper rifle. Or lay waste to this army of spiders. God damn, look how many spiders you can fit on screen. Remember in God of War 3 where you fought bosses that were the size of mountains, and the game's scope made you look like an insect? Now you remember that same thing happened in God of War 2018 and Ragnarok? No? Me neither. Because having beautiful graphics and yet another story about an old asshole protecting a kid was more important. I'm sorry, but I'm not the only one that thinks that the gaming industry is focusing on the wrong things. Don't get me wrong, I love movies and I love games. But the reasons I love movies and I love games are not the same. I don't want my games to be movies. I don't want to play Metal Gear Solid and see an hour-and-a-half cinematic. That's longer than the runtime of The Lion King. This is bullshit. I want you to put a controller in my hand and have me do really, really cool shit for a long period of time. I know I pick on God of War a lot, but I'm gonna do it one more time. Cory Barlog, the director of God of War 2018, said in an interview, at one point the fight between Kratos and the Stranger was supposed to span the entirety of Midgard. In the fight, you were supposed to see locations from all over Midgard as you were destroying them. Then after the fight, as you continue on through the game, you would see all of these places again, but now destroyed after your fight. The whole game, you would essentially be able to see the destruction that you caused in that first fight. They said they decided not to do it because they couldn't figure out a way without breaking the one-shot camera thing they had going on. And I gotta say, I like Cory Barlog, but he made the wrong choice here. And it's clear that we missed out not being able to see something like that. Games are doing this more and more. They're not worried about what's fun or what's really cool to experience. They're worried about things like cinematic storytelling, theming, and at the end of the day, just making their games more and more like movies. I'm not saying that games can't have these things. What I'm saying is that the storytelling methods that games excel in are not the same as the ones movies do. Things like environmental storytelling, interactive storytelling, and gameplay do not exist in movies. These used to be massive parts of storytelling in a video game. Nowadays, they seem more interested in having long cinematics where you sit there and watch things play out, or long sections where you're forced to just walk at a very slow pace while characters have a long, drawn-out conversation. You can also put unfailable climbing sections in the same category. This is a game. You should never have gameplay and control taken away from you for the purposes of sitting there watching and waiting for the story to play out. That's what a movie is for. And this treating games as movies philosophy extends far past just creating pacing issues. Believe it or not, you can only realistically fit so much into a video game. And when you supercharge the graphics to such an extent that you can see the pores on a person's face, you have to make cuts and other areas. This usually ends up affecting gameplay and the content that's actually in the game. If you want evidence of this, just look at Star Wars Battlefront 2 compared to Star Wars Battlefront 2. Stripping a game of everything that's fun just so you can make it super graphics and super cinematic is not worth it. It's never been worth it. It's never going to be worth it. Every game studio is focused on the wrong thing, releasing these massive game trailers with beautiful cinematics and graphics. The problem is that once the trailer's over and the game's in stores and we all pick it up, those beautiful graphics just kind of fade to the back of your mind and you don't think about it. Now you're just left with a substandard game that had to have everything stripped out of it because the game developer couldn't fit anything else other than the graphics into the game. Now I gotta walk around this 300-mile long map with nothing to do, getting a bunch of pointless collectibles nobody cares about, and fighting the same 10 enemy types over and over. But can you honestly sit there and say that you're just as excited about games that come out this year as you did maybe 10, 15 years ago? Well, you might get excited about 3 or 4 games the whole year, and each of those games is going to be variations of the exact same formula. There always seems to be 2 or 3 games that get everybody excited, always open world games with a bunch of pointless shit to do on a map, usually focusing on a story that's done in a cinematic fashion, and combat that's either some variation of Dark Souls or Batman Arkham Asylum. That sentence right there just described 85% of games that come out nowadays. Look, do me a favor and Google a list of games from 2005 and just see the sheer variety on display there. Nowadays, we're just playing all the same games, waiting for one of them to come out with one good mechanic that every other game will copy for the next 5 years until the next new interesting mechanic comes out. We're going to spend 60 to 80 hours in each of these games doing pretty much the same thing we do in every other game. Watching the same basic stories play out with the same basic themes, with the same uncomplicated gameplay, and it's going to be really, really pretty. More games need to be like Earth Defense Force. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not saying that these types of games don't exist anymore. They just don't really exist in the AAA market. You have to go play indie games to get the real creativity. AAA studios need to be a little more experimental. Seriously. And again, I want to reiterate this. I want to be very, very clear. Stop trying to be a movie. We got movies right now. They're very average. Gaming can do better. All right, my rant's over. Like, subscribe, and y'all be safe out there, you hear?